Welcome to Safe Doesn't Scale. I'm your host, David Walsh, founder of Limelight. This show is for marketing and growth leaders with a chip on their shoulder who are tired of playing it safe. So I'm excited to be joined by Jason from OpenForge today. He's the CEO and founder. We actually get to work together now more recently, which I'm excited about. But OpenForge is a platform for AI agents that helps you improve your brand visibility in AI search and outrank competition. I feel like this is the topic that every marketing leader is talking about today. I know when we would deal with customers, they're always interested in this. It's the number one priority. So super excited for this conversation. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm a big fan of you, your company, your guys' work. So it's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Well, I actually think back to how we got introduced. One of my investors, they emailed me. He actually texted me and he was like, you need to meet Jason. And I was like, okay. So I'm excited that he got to connect us and I'll have to send him this link when it goes live. Well, I think let's start off with, why don't you just give us a quick introduction of you, your background, and then we can talk a little bit about OpenForge.
Absolutely. I am a repeat founder. I built and sold my first company, which was in the education technology space. At that company, we had industry-leading SEO, despite being a bootstrap company. We were going up against competitors that had raised 40, 50, 60 million dollars, and we were outranking them. I was running that SEO operation all the way up until our exit in August of 2023. And so then we founded OpenForge, which is a platform of AI agents that helps businesses grow their AI brand visibility and become prepared for the agentic commerce age where agents are doing business with other agents. We found this company. We're bootstrapped currently. We have a lot of inbound interest from investors, but we're growing fast. It's going very well. It's been a pleasure working with you and so many global brands, on the world stage. So it's been a great journey. I love marketing. I'm big on YouTube. I'm big on trying different things out for go-to-market teams. So I'm excited to dive into this conversation.
Well, selfishly, for everyone listening, before this call, we were just chatting and I was like, I have a crush on your YouTube presence and your YouTube. Now we're diving more into video and podcasts. If you haven't checked out Jason's YouTube, please do. We have so much to talk about. We could go in so many different directions. What I want to focus on is your hot takes, right? The things that you think in the market are different or unique. Obviously, we're running a podcast called Safe Doesn't Scale. We focus on heads of marketing, heads of growth, heads of revenue sometimes. And it's all about things that are unique and different, how to stand out from the crowd, and how to do things that have a big impact on revenue ultimately. So as much storytelling as possible, as many examples as you can share, we'd love all of that. Why don't we start with just a really simple but powerful question, which is what's not working in B2B right now?
Top of funnel content. I've spoken to probably 2,000 companies in the past calendar year. And every company from enterprise to upstart brands, whether they've raised or whether they're lean and bootstrapped, I want to say nearly literally everybody has lost anywhere from 10 to 30% of traffic. We are looking at an internet infrastructure ecosystem where we're moving away from clicks and traffic, and we have to focus more on conversions. And therefore, what we're seeing in real time with all this evidence here from their Google Analytics is that a lot of their top of funnel content is dying. Now, why is that? Fundamentally, because AI systems, ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity, they're trained on data sets and they can now do web search anyway. What happens is that if you have generic top of funnel content, that content can get summarized very easily. And the AI will put its own spin on it or just spit back the facts to the user. And the AI has no incentive to cite you, to mention you, because this information can be taught and learned and read anywhere. Well, think of it this way. For users who still might have a hard time wrapping their heads around this, David, is that, okay, in the AI era, an AI can give you an answer. But let's say 5-10 years ago when Google search is still king and we were looking at 10 blue links, you could type in a keyword and your job as a business was to rank at the top of those results for those keywords, because regular Google search was deterministic. You type in a keyword, these are the reliable 10 links that you get. Now with AI search, it's probabilistic. So you want to have the vibes and yes, the brand strength, which we'll go into later, that get you to the top of those search results most often. And so top of funnel content is one of those things where the AI search system has no desire, incentive to give you credit and have them click away from the the chat interface, ultimately because that information you're providing, that top funnel broad information, can be found anywhere.
I have to jump in and ask you a question, right? Which is, I speak to so many marketing leaders, content leaders, brand social, right? And a lot of them are saying like content is really important for us today, right? Are you saying that content marketing shouldn't be a priority anymore? Maybe you can give the listeners a little bit more insight there, because I think it'd be really interesting to hear your take.
Absolutely. I think in the AI age, we're about to enter an age of paradox. We're going to see trillion-dollar companies. And as the CEO of Anthropic published an essay, trillion-dollar companies with, unfortunately, maybe an underclass of professionals whose work gets automated by AI. So what I'm about to tell you is a paradox, okay? Content marketing, the top of funnel, is going to become automated and subsumed by AI. Top of funnel content is dying, but you cannot afford to not have content marketing. So you're probably asking yourself, how does that work? Top of funnel's dying, but I need content in order to not die, in order to basically survive in the AI age. The middle ground here and the key insight here is that you want to focus on creating mid-funnel content and bottom funnel content. That means you want to create content for search queries that people search for based on commercial intent and transactional intent. What do those two things mean, David? Commercial intent is when someone is looking to purchase something, but they still need more information, more pros and cons, more comparison content on what option they should go with so they can become fully educated and then make that purchase. So their money is on their wallet. They just want to know which option to go with. And then transactional content is, they want to be brought to a page or be brought to the cart or be brought to the actual product page, and then they want to buy. Commercial content and transactional content are very important. Commercial content is where you'll get most upside. It's very high competition and lower traffic than top of funnel, which means that you need to make sure your brand positioning, your story, your content, it's all there so you have a fighting chance to show up when people search for it. That's the paradox.
It's such an interesting time to be in that market. Like, I feel like if you're a content marketer 2 years ago and you have to unlearn everything and you have to just relearn the new way, and like everyone's in that kind of moment in time where it's like, who is the expert here? Who actually knows what the F they're doing, right? The goalposts seem to change quite a bit. And obviously it's an evolving space. I know that you're leading the charge with this. I selfishly get to email you in the middle of the night with random questions. And I say, hey, I had this idea or had this thought, or hey, and I think I started my last email to you with, as our internal AI SEO expert, I have this idea, tell me why I'm wrong. And you responded in like a minute with like a detailed, so I get firsthand knowledge of this. The people watching this, probably it's new for the most of them. So I want to, before we dive more into, what you're doing at OpenForge, what we do at Limelight, and kind of all the different things we could talk about, I actually want to go back to like your own journey, right? So maybe starting with like a risk that you took. Can you give me sort of like a calculated risk bet that you made on yourself or in your career that ultimately paid off?
I'll give you a broad one, and then we'll go deeper into that to give you the actual GTM risk. I started my first company when I was stuck in debt. I put the growth and the investment of that first company, my first investor was JP Morgan Chase credit cards. I put all the growth of the company on credit cards. I put myself in a lot of debt to get that first company off the ground. What did I invest in? Well, YouTube. It was in one of those periods where there weren't a lot of people from education on YouTube, not yet, not like there is now. And I had a hunch that my venture-backed competitors weren't on YouTube, and the one that was didn't have very good videos. And I had a hunch that competitors who were public companies and maybe they were scanning our market, publishing videos would be a little bit too much for them. No one wants videos. They're fundamentally easy to make, just like basketball. You run, jump, shoot, but the execution is what's hard. How do you get the lighting right? How do you get the mic right? It's infuriating to write a script sometimes. Reading off a teleprompter is really hard. It's an earned skill. Having the discipline to make videos day after day or week after week is hard. I was good at those things. I'm good at doing hard things. And so I invested in YouTube.
How long ago was this? Like what year?
Yeah, this was 2019. So how about the end of 2019 to the beginning of 2020? We really went hard on YouTube. And what we did was we took broad top of funnel content, okay? The stuff that you're not supposed to do now. but it worked back then. We took broad top of funnel content. And I said to myself, hold up, there's good content ranking on Google SEO for this, but no one's doing it on YouTube. So maybe if I recorded a video, embedded it into my actual content, and then I double dipped. I created a really good piece of written content and a really good piece of video content based off the same topic. Maybe Google and YouTube would reward me. And for anyone who doesn't know, any young people out there, Google owns YouTube. So it's in their interest to boost that type of content, or so I thought. So I started publishing YouTube videos. Then COVID hit. So I was back at my parents' house. We had a personal tragedy, so I moved back home to be with family. And just in my childhood room with the baby blue wallpaper and the crazy painting of the fan and stuff, I made YouTube videos with my ghetto little janky little mic and just kind of weird setup. I just was trying to do my best. We created really good content though, because as long as the mic was good and the lighting was okay, people in that market were willing to get answers from someone like me who was good at public speaking, and someone like me who could read lines and give them in a very clear and concise way. So, for example, this was an education technology company. One of our best performing all-time videos was Why NYU? So at that time, NYU had a college essay that was like, why NYU? Why do you want to go to NYU? So I created a video on that. We created a really good piece of content on that. I embedded the video into that content. That was one of our money pages up until acquisition, because people loved the video. They would click in from the video into the site, or vice versa. They go from the site to YouTube, subscribe, and now I have them in our ecosystem. That was scary to do, right? Because one, I'm putting my face out there on the internet. I wasn't really comfortable with that at that time. I'm not sure if I'm comfortable with that. I'm not sure if I'm comfortable with that. At the same time, we were expanding. It was COVID. It was a weird time for anybody. And people who were professionals or businesses at the time, and even people at that time, you were an adult. It was tough. It was a time of change during a time of great crisis for the country. So it was a frightening thing to do. It worked out. Luckily, we had YouTube videos. We could track how well they were doing. People came to our site. Then for attribution, they'd call me or one of my representatives, my team members, to potentially buy from us to see what we offered. And they would say, oh, wow, I'm talking to you. I just saw you on YouTube. And that's when I went, whoa, this is working. By the time of acquisition, David, YouTube was anywhere from 20 to 30% of our pipeline. So it's a video I made one time for a couple $100, and that continually gave us ROI for the next couple of years.
Are we talking really like millions in pipeline?
So I'm under NDA, so there's certain numbers I can't talk about. Sure. We had a lot of leads. I would say our top 80-20 rule, like all things in life, 80-20 rule, you can't escape. Sure. Venture capital, tech, whatever, YouTube content. 20% of our content generated 80% of our pipeline from YouTube. I would say we got hundreds of leads every year from YouTube. If a small percentage of them converted, we ended up generating hundreds of thousands of dollars a year from YouTube.
You need to make sure, now you're reminding me, I got to follow up with you on YouTube, because I went all in on LinkedIn 2 years ago. So last company, grew it, raised a Series A, did all things to help it grow, made some mistakes along the way, had to let go some of my team, learned a lot in the journey. And one of the things that I did not do was hire a great technical leader and speak publicly about my business. So this time around, I said, those are the two things that I want to do really, really well. So I just started to create content on LinkedIn. And so I created this content on LinkedIn that ended up, we're at like 40 something thousand followers. And just to give you some stats, like 90% of all of our revenue at Limelight and all of our pipeline comes from my content on LinkedIn. And what we're trying to do is replicate that for our customers. We work with the heads of marketing, the heads of brand, the heads of paid ads. And we say, hey, creators and influencers are a new channel and a new motion for you. It's a really messy process. If we activate creators, we can also activate your employees, and we can help them to create more content. And just generally speaking, I think a lot of B2B companies are taking social media more seriously. I think when it first started 10 years ago, people cared about it, and then it kind of went off the wayside. Nobody really cared. And now I feel like everyone cares way more, and especially YouTube. Like, just for your context, I was dealing with the big billion-dollar business, very well-known website builder, brand name. You probably think of the first thing that comes to your head is probably them, one of our customers. And I said, what are you looking for? And they're like, more YouTube creators. We need more YouTube creators. We want as much as possible. And so feels like there's just so much opportunity there.
I think you're in one of the great emerging markets. It's a big market right now, but it's going to be an emerging market. I say that because information is everywhere. God knows we live in an erratic media system, and there's opinions everywhere. We're going to the other portion of the pendulum swing. So, you know, when I was in high school, Facebook was becoming big. So everything was everywhere. And then, began Snapchat, the closed system. And then we went back to Instagram. And now we're going back to the closed system, or rather the higher trust system, where people want to talk to those people they trust, or they will buy from people
Mm.
they trust. I think you are in one of the great emerging markets for marketing in our time, David. I'd bet on you guys.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. Like, it's fun. I look, in the end of the day, life's short, right? What skills do I have? I like to sell. I like to build things. I like to ship product. I like to build teams. I like to hire people. But ultimately, it's all a waste of time if you're not having fun. So this time around, I was like, let me focus on something that's so much fun. And I can't think of anything more fun than a new kind of go-to-market motion around creators and influencers. Like, we have built a marketplace. So every day there's just like Slack notifications going off, people getting paid $10,000, $20,000. I get a DM from somebody out of the blue saying, you just sent me $30,000. I was like, I have no idea who you are, but that is freaking awesome. We built this marketplace. Somebody found you, they paid you. This is brilliant. So it's a joy. It's not without its challenges, for sure. I actually want to go back to your last company and some of the learnings that you had. I know when we first you mentioned ed tech. I had been in ed tech myself at one point. Let's start with one learning that you had, or one mistake that you made from that company that you carry with you into this new one.
If you told me to focus on 10 of my mistakes, we wouldn't have enough time. So focusing on one is hard enough. From a GTM plus business standpoint, I did not focus enough on maximizing my customer acquisition cost and getting it as efficient as possible. I did one of these things where I didn't fill, you don't have to have your cup fully filled to take care of others. There has to be something in your cup. Same thing on a flight, the air masks come down. You got to put yours on before you help someone else. I didn't do that. I gave it my all, and I thought giving it my all would, it meant self-destruction. I thought self-destructing or self-destroying was a noble thing, and that was what would lead to success. It was incredibly stupid. I was young, and I was just going 100 miles per hour. Because I didn't slow down, I couldn't go faster. So how does that relate to what we're talking about here? Which is, I didn't pay attention enough to my margins. I could have had higher margins. I was afraid to raise prices because I thought people wouldn't like me. I just had some certain things, how I grew up, and some things I had to get over. And so I couldn't pay myself a lot. I couldn't even pay the rest of my team what I wanted to pay them and what I thought they deserved, because I thought lower prices would make customers like us. And, a lot of customers did like us because we were affordable, but that didn't lead to some, higher alpha or a greater trend line over time. It just meant that, we had some troublesome customers who, were just looking to get them to squeeze as much water out of the rock. And, I made some mistakes as far as that. I should have charged more. I should have not cared what people thought. I should have put myself in the driver's seat more. I was always in control, but I should have paid myself more at the beginning so that I had more flexibility and wiggle room to take a bigger risk down the road. I didn't think like that. I don't want to say I regret it, but I'm very disappointed in myself. I did pay for that decision for some years, but it's a lesson learned, and I'm a much better CEO and leader for that now. So yeah,
Let me react to what you shared and just share with you that feels like a rite of passage. In my last company, I did all the wrong things. I thought busy work was good work, right? Like, I was on 14 hours a day, responding to stuff in 30 seconds. I used to have a metric in my mind that I thought was important, which was my team would say he responds in 10 seconds or less on Slack. I thought that was like a cue for me doing a good job. And the truth was, is I was on video calls with customers slacking my team about meaningless admin tasks. I didn't realize that to program your brain to not have to be a high operator, to just like output is the most important. It's strategically, where do I place my bets? Where do I put my time? And how do I delegate and grow the team and allow others to be successful? So definitely resonates with me on, burnout and just working too hard, or just working on the wrong things, spending time not realizing, like, where is the highest leverage of my time and what else can I delegate?
There's I forgot who said it. Maybe Jason Lemkin, maybe Peter Thiel, someone big and someone very successful said that if you look back on your business journey, all the things you thought mattered didn't really matter. And you can come back to it and think of 4 or 5 decisions that really change the trajectory of your company and therefore your life. And I look back, I'm the same way, man. I used to be on our Zendesk chat, walking on my way to jiu-jitsu thinking, oh, if someone messaged me, I have to message back in less than a minute because that'll convince them to buy. So many things were wrong and that I thought I had a correct assumption on. I agree, man. I'm a much better man for it. I'm a much better business leader for it. And I'm much better strategically.
Let me ask you one last question on your business, or like how you came to be, or like what your strategy is. And then I want to transition this to like actionable. What can people do with GEO today? Like, where do you get started? Let's dive into that, because I know people are going to be interested. They don't want to hear, our wins and our losses and all the mistakes that we've made, or else it would be on our soapbox for years and hours. So you mentioned something about your team today and staying lean and being efficient, and you got inbound from investors, right? Like, especially as a first-time founder, inbound from investors, you get so excited. You're like, oh my God, these people are messaging me with like a personalized message, and they seem really interested in what we're doing. And the truth is, you're just on a Crunchbase, automation that just gets sent to your inbox. You're like, oh, okay. Once you realize that, you can't unsee it. When you think about your business, letting revenue pay for growth is obviously the most amazing situation to be in. What's your ultimate goal? Where are you at right now? What things are you controlling? And how do you think about the landscape around the space that you're in and some of the interest from investors?
Yeah, it's, again, I think a lot of paradoxes. I think GEO, AEO, whatever we want to call it, is going to be one of the great marketing opportunities of our time. Think of SEO back like it was in 2005. You go to a business owner and ask them, what would you do to invest in SEO in 2005? Wouldn't you do it? It's tremendous alpha. You publish early, you get a higher domain rating, as we called it back in the day. And wouldn't you want to be there? You would print money. It's the same vibe now, where you want to get on top of these things and do the check boxes and reconfigure your marketing operation. Not radically reconfigure, but change a couple of things around, which you and I will go into the next 20, 30 minutes here. The whole point is that when we think of our team, we think of what do our customers want, what will they pay for, and then we work backwards from there. So we have a person running GTM, then we automate it with a lot of agents. Then those agents get checked off or approved. What they do gets approved by the people that are on our team. We use a lot of AI tooling. We ask ourselves, can this be done very well or reliably so 80% of the time with AI? That's the metric we use, 80% of the time.
It's the best time ever to be in building software right now, right? You can build it for much cheaper than you used to be able to.
Here now is the paradox here, right? You just said it's the best time to build software, which means SEO was always a really hard market to defend. There's a large company I tremendously respect in our space called SEMrush.
Yep.
They're great. They're the OGs.
They just got acquired, didn't they?
They just got acquired, right? For just about $2 billion. Cool acquisition.
Pocket change.
Yeah, exactly. But if SEMrush has been around for almost 20 years, maybe 18 years, I want to say, 17 years as of this recording. You would hope that a company in market intelligence would get bought for like 20 billion, right? Mm-hmm. SEMrush has huge network effects, phenomenal content. A lot of people use their tool, but you can make a SEMrush. You can make a lot of tools, including ones that that have raised money, including in our space, and you can make those tools in a couple months. This isn't rocket science. Whereas a company like yours, that's a marketplace, you're matching people and stuff. That has a lot of defensibility. So my whole point is, I think this is a very lucrative space. I mean, we are very profitable. Our revenue is paying for growth. I wonder, though, genuinely wonder if the players in our space that have raised tens of millions of dollars are going to return the funds for their investors. For the investors, it's just one of their companies. They can write it off. But the founders of those companies, even though they're my competitors, I care about them because they're fellow founders. They're fellow brethren in this crazy journey we, for some reason, choose to do. I wonder about all software that's not built on legacy systems. Can you return the fund? Because you will always now have competitors, on your heels, right behind you. Once they realize, oh, this is a great opportunity, you're going to see 10 different people pop up every single day. I truly wonder, not just for our market, but for the market for different markets in general.
Let me say what you said slightly differently and use your own words, which is this paradox. So what I said is, it's the best time ever to be building software. On one side, that's true. On the other side, it is the worst time to be building software because whatever you build, your competitors can replicate in an hour using vibe coding and Lovable, right? I'm making that up, but you know what I mean. Like it's pretty crazy how quickly feature parity is going to happen. So the question is, where's the uniqueness? Where's the differentiation? Where's the things that you can do? And I honestly, and I'm obviously very biased in this, but I think a big part of that is social and it's brand and it's what people care about. And so
execution.
If we go all the way back to how are people learning about products today and what is different than how they learned even 6 months ago or 2 years ago, right? Today, people are learning about it going to LLMs. Every single thing in my life today, almost every single thing, I just open up ChatGPT or I open up Gemini and I ask it a question and I say, I don't trust any other source. Tell me, what I need to know. So people are learning about it in LLMs. They're learning about it in newsletters that they read. They're learning about it in news feeds that they read. They're learning about it in podcasts they listen to like this, right? So from a marketeer's perspective, consumers are learning about businesses in a completely different way. So you have to reinvent how do you get upstream with your marketing and how do you input yourself in the awareness stage so that they even know that you exist, right? So I think we both are in spaces in which we think about that type of problem. And I would love your take on like how you help companies today, right? Like, you know what, let's just jump into a straight question. It's if somebody's getting started today, right? Where do they begin, right? They come to you and they say, we've got nothing. Where do we get started?
Yeah. I would first say, what do you think are the queries that your customers look for? I won't plug what we do. Our AI can do that. It'll do the automated process, but let's just talk brass tacks. They don't have a lot of money to spend. What should they be doing? Well, find the questions your customers are caring about. You want to quote unquote rank for those queries. Now, if those questions are very top of funnel, they're a lot more informational, you probably want to skip them over. But if they're more decisive questions, even if they're not buying questions, you want to create long, exhaustive guides on not just answering that question, but all the ancillary questions related to the initial question that they had. I want to provide visuals if possible, but that's not always necessary. But then you want to make sure that the content that you create is not just scannable for human readers, but also scannable by AI. So what does that mean? Well, short paragraphs, as we know, 1 to 3 lines, that's an SEO thing. But there's a content marketing company called Animals. I'm stealing this from them, so they deserve credit here. It's called the BLUF method, BLUF, bottom line up front. Give the key idea of your section in that first line so that the reader knows what you're talking about, but then the AI will know as well. That makes the content a lot more liftable. What is liftable content? Why would AI want to lift that content? Well, what it means is that it thinks that the piece of content that you provide is something that would be a great contextual answer or great to insert into the user experience. What makes good liftable content? Well, easy to read is one. But two, this is something new. It's called information gain. In the traditional SEO era of 10 years ago, you could have had a really well-done article and a strong domain rating, like your legacy company, and you could have ranked on top of Google. But now, for that informational type of content, it's getting subsumed, it's turning, it's getting synthesized, and you're not getting credit for it. Information gain is you're teaching the model or the human being something completely new. This could be a survey you have with your customers. This could be a hot take you have about the market. This could be an attitude your company has about your market. Information gain is you're teaching the model something new, and therefore, if it believes that lifting your content is a good idea for its user, it's going to lift that content, give it to the user because you are teaching the AI something new, you're teaching the user something new, and therefore the user goes, I like ChatGPT. I'm going to come back to it because it's all business. ChatGPT wants to keep you away from Gemini and vice versa.
So it sounds like you got to jump straight in and you got to figure out what are people looking for? What are the search prompts? That reminds me of your product, by the way, because when we got introduced from my investor, I logged in, created an account, and immediately, I think it was 90 seconds later, it just gave me this report on and told me exactly what I needed to do. By the way, it told me to set up a G2 account and get some reviews. Still haven't done it. It's on my to-do list. I told my team today, I was like, I'm not waiting any longer. So it sounds like it's figure out what the LLMs, what people are actually querying, make sure that you're creating content that ranks in that query. Make sure that it's long form content, it's unique, it's hot takes, it's something that's from your case studies or examples, like hard to replicate and hard to produce. Anything else that I missed there?
Yeah, I mean that's for content. I'm sure there's other things like you want to create, exhaustive manuals type of like an exhaustive type of pillar pages. But the other aspect is the H2s you create, so the subsections of your copy, make them be semantic based, actual questions people would ask. Don't make them conceptual, make them very pragmatic. I use the SAFE framework: straightforward, actionable, functional, and then executable. Straightforward is make sure safe. So say the S is for straightforward content. Actionable is, can the person use your advice? F is, give a step-by-step process to make it functional. And executable is, can this content be used to truly execute what they need to get done? If it's practical, because people ask practical questions on ChatGPT. I was just trying to make a chicken recipe today. That's why I went to ChatGPT. You provide that great specificity around the use case of what the user needs. You have a chance to win.
I was telling my wife the other day, it's like I was talking about ChatGPT like it's my diary. So I was like, paradoxically saying like, hello, ChatGPT, it's me again. I've got another question, and it's abstract, weird question. If anyone looked at your ChatGPT history, it would be hilarious to see all the things that you're learning or all the things that you're querying.
Yeah. So like, right in that note, right? Like let's say you're talking to it like it's a diary or a journal, and you ask it questions about mental health or what kind of car you want to buy next or a great ambition you have. The second thing you want to do if you're getting started with GEO, AEO is figure out where your market is trending. What are the citations and the mentions getting pulled from when you or your competitors are getting mentioned on the LLM? Why do I say this? Every industry has different benchmarks. It has different weights. Some industries really prefer, so for some industries, ChatGPT really prefers the website, right? So if you're e-commerce site and you have a product page, ChatGPT loves to bring up the product page because people say, I'm a man, I need a skincare routine for my dry skin after Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practice in the evenings because I live in a cold climate. And ChatGPT wants to bring up really good item with reviews on it, but a product page from your website that provides the best user experience for purchasing. But we also have car manufacturers and large car dealerships as customers as well. For that industry, because it's a big purchase and cars are important, third-party reviews and citations are huge. So people want to look at Google reviews or roundup articles because they want to know if I'm going to spend $50,000 in a car, I want to make sure it's a good car. For B2B SaaS governance, right? Compliance and governance, where your security is at stake, people's data, their lives are at stake. B2B third-party citations are also very big there. For different kinds of sites, different kinds of businesses, different things are huge. For alcohol brands, you work with a couple of major beverage and alcohol brands, roundup articles are huge. So people will type in, what's the best bourbon I should use for this recipe? ChatGPT cites a lot of third-party articles, roundup articles that say, here are the 5 best bourbons to use for this type of cocktail. So you want to find out, ultimately, David, is that what tracks for your industry, your niche, who are your competitors, and what's working for them. Our platform provides all this, but if you have $0 to spend, you can just type in the questions on ChatGPT. This day and age, there's no excuses. You can type in all the questions your customers ask and find out and see literally in the sources who's being cited. That's the best way to start. Really good, clean content, but then knowing where your competitors get cited as well, so you can find that industry trend line.
This might be a biased question, but I know I pinged you in the middle of the night about it, and I want you to give me the answer, which is we're super curious about this, right? So we've got these huge companies like Webflow, ZoomInfo, Bill.com doing paid content partnerships across all social channels: LinkedIn, newsletters, podcasts, YouTube, Twitter. A big one is LinkedIn, okay? And what I'm curious about, because some of our brands have reported this back to us, which is they do content partnerships, they get 20, 30, 40, 50 creators to create content, posting every month, once a month, for example. There's hundreds of posts, right? They're starting to report back that LLMs have cited them and that content in the LLM. And I think some of it is gated from LinkedIn, because of their, systems and privacies policies. But we feel like that is a big opportunity, because if you tie yourself to the GEO or AI LLM search budget line item, it is exponentially growing. Every marketeer cares about this. They're investing in it. They know it's important. So we're trying to figure out, like, is this something we should explore? And I know I've been strategizing a little bit about you, like back and forth with sporadic emails to you. What's your take on this? Do you think that's something that is going to happen more?
Yeah. Yes. In a word, yes. And it harkens back to the pendulum swinging in different media environments. Again, right? We went from MySpace. I'm dating myself here. Back when the dinosaurs roamed the earth, MySpace was,
Bebo.
yeah, sure, right? Like you had to, log in and build something on your own. Then you went to Facebook when anyone could request you. So it's more of an open system. And then, we went to Snapchat. People kind of got sick of encountering those on Facebook. So you want to be more curated with what your selection is. And then we went to Insta. Now it's on TikTok. And, we're still, I think we're going to this, in this regard, a more trust-based system. Information is everywhere. And so people want to know who to trust. Who do you trust, David? Well, people who spend time in a particular niche, people who spend time in a particular industry that you don't know. And then you say, I like this guy's vibe. I like his videos. I'm going to go into his product suggestions. So why, David, is this a huge opportunity? You talked about the line item budget, but I think framing it another way is also really lucrative in that it's conversion rates. If you have 1,000 people coming to your website and 1% of them convert, fine, it's all good. But it's better to have 100 people come to your website or 50 and have a higher percentage of that convert because they're higher intent buyers. They give you more data and they actually might have a bigger cart or an overall line item purchase. So conversions is the name of the game here. Again, everyone's traffic is going to drop. Your mind share in the overall media ecosystem is going to drop. But can you make the people who like you love you? And then
I love that.
Can you get them to buy from you or buy via influencer that you're partnering with? If you do that correctly, people want that. People want trust. Human beings are social creatures. If you're able to do that in a time when AI is taking over, AI will use that information and then boost you in the LLM ranking. We're seeing it right now too in my data. It's not you plugging it. I'm seeing it too.
Wow. So okay, I've got one question and then I want to wrap up with a kind of a broader career question. So you had just made me think of something so different that I had not thought about before, which is it used to be about reach and awareness and everything all the time, everywhere. Okay. That was marketing's goal. It was like, let's make as much noise, flap our wings, get as much traction as we can. I don't think that has gone away completely, but what you're saying is it's now about pinpointing who actually cares, right? Accuracy of marketing is now more important. Audience segmentation is now more important. And that's the thing that people need to focus on. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. Know your audience, know your ideal customer profile, know why they love you, know why they almost didn't buy from you, know who else they considered, know what they liked about your competitors, know all of that stuff and build content based on that. Don't start top to bottom, start bottom to top. Go to the ground level, pick up the phone, talk to your customer, and even risk the crudeness of their answer and say, David, you almost went with a competitor. What did you like about them over us? Or what do you hate about our platform? What do you love about our platform? Get that honest information. That's the best way to build content. And then, of course, figure out where the third-party citations are coming from. Figure that out as well. And you can really segment who your customers are. Why? Because if you know who your customers are and you build a product for them, they will love you in turn, and then they'll be happy to give you a review on Google Reviews or G2 or Yelp or whatever it is. So this effect is not just about doing good business in the first place. It's all about compounding effects. You focus on this correctly now, it'll pay dividends over the next 10, 20 years.
You made me think of a story that I have that gives me a lot of heartburn over Christmas. So I'm just going to quickly share it.
Please.
I was on one of my competitors' websites looking at their pricing because we just updated our pricing. We actually just increased our pricing by like close to 2x. So it's going to be interesting to see how that lands. But I was on this pricing page of this competitor, right? And then I ended up stumbling upon this blog. And the blog was written as a comparison from my company to their company. And when I say this was defamatory, it was ridiculous. It was just made up statistics that were just like percentages of response rates that were not true. There's no way they could have got that data. There was made up testimonials. A previous customer said, even there was just so much made up jargon and data in this that I was like, oh my God, this is insane. First thought was, I'm going to go to my lawyer. Second thought was, I don't want to spend $1,500 on my lawyer to respond to my email. Third thought was, let me go to ChatGPT and let me give it all of the context and let me tell it to write me a nice email, give me the different options that I have, and then write a really firm email. Sent the email. New Year's Eve, 31st of December, just passed. 21 minutes later, I got a response from the CEO. We'll take it down immediately. Sorry for any inconvenience. At a show of good faith, blah, blah, blah. Do you know what I did? Created content. I said, this is great. This is going to be awesome. I'm going to take this piece of content. Now I'm going to make it a social post and we can drive some revenue from it. It gives me a bit of heartburn because I realize some of these dirty tactics. Truth is that I don't think, I like these people. I think they're further along than us in a consumer influencer marketing space, but they also now launched B2B. And I think their product is kind of cool. And I have respect for their CEO. I think that what they probably did was just plug in, create case study or testimonial about competitor and then just click send and put it to their CMS. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt, by the way. That might not have happened. If they didn't have a human read it, it's their fault. But either way, it was kind of a fun learning exercise. Let me leave you with one question and then we'll wrap up. The question is about your career. So you're starting all over again. What do you deprioritize immediately?
Oh, that's a great question. I view business as a spiritual journey. I love this stuff. There's going to be another company after this. There's going to be another one after that. I love building things and I love competing. So my answer to this is going to be less strategic and more spiritual, if you'll humor me. I'm deprioritizing being or trying to be liked. I grew up in a way where reputation is important. I think a lot of people from Southeast Asian or East Asian backgrounds grow up in this situation where you don't want to stand out too much or be called something weird in the off chance someone considers you a bad person, because that's bad. I don't know if I can curse on this show, but I don't give a shit.
You can go for it.
I don't give a shit about that anymore. I really don't. And now I'm more focused on making ruthless decisions that are good for my people in the business, my employees, my co-founder. And that ruthlessness rooted in compassion. It's what Brian Chesky of Airbnb says, is that, letting someone go is one of the most painful experiences you can go through as an entrepreneur. It's horrendous. Anyone who has never, let someone go, I hope they never have to do it because it sucks. At the same time, you have to do what's right for the organization and you have to find out what's right for that person. You have to help them land on their feet. I believe in doing both things. If you don't make that decision because you don't want them to dislike you or you're afraid people will say something bad about you, you are not putting the business first. You are putting your own emotions and ego first. Not ego in I'm a big, strong athlete type of way, but ego in I'm putting myself before the business. That is not a good thing. I think at that time, when I thought these things, I was afraid of what people would say. I became paralyzed making certain decisions. The CAC issue, customer acquisition cost issue we were talking before, the margin issue we were talking about before. There are decisions that I made or took too long on when I was a younger man.
You're worried about what other people would say or how they would land, or you're basically, I had this exact same problem. You want to be liked, but you also want to make decisions by consensus. And there's times that consensus decision making is wrong, especially in early stage. You just need to cut straight to, this is what I'm doing. I have all the information, even though it's imperfect. I need to make this decision. I feel like, Jason, we learned a ton about your journey. I really appreciate you spending some time with me and going into this. We talked about your YouTube videos, and I really want to go back to those early ones, that you were embarrassed about. I'd love to go look at them. We dived deep on GEO and AIS LLM. I thought you did a great job of explaining your background and kind of this journey. And I think wrapping it up with that spiritual kind of feedback is awesome. So where do people find out about you? Where do they learn about you? How do they know about OpenForge?
Yeah, you can visit OpenForge.ai. If you have questions on AEO and GEO, I'm happy to help anybody. And I believe this is a big opportunity for America and its businesses. And whoever I can help, and as an American entrepreneur, I would love to. So you can contact me at Jason, Jason, at openforge.ai, OPENFORGE.ai, or you can find me on LinkedIn and we can always riff there. But I'm always happy to help fellow founders navigate not just GEO, AEO, but the life of building something. I'm always there for other founders.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us. Excited for this to be shared with the broader audience.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm a big fan of you and what you're working on, and I'm excited for what the future holds.
Awesome. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Safe Doesn't Scale on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. Limelight is the leading AI-powered B2B influencer marketplace and social signals platform. Brands like HubSpot, Webflow, and ZoomInfo use Limelight to power influencer programs at scale. Start your first campaign at limelighthq.com.